In May, around the time of the full moon, countless small, beautiful flowers that blanket the Oklahoma plains begin to wither. For this reason, this full moon is called the flower-killing moon. The tragic story of the Osage, who were forcibly relocated to northeastern Oklahoma in the 1920s, is at the heart of killers of the flower moon. In what was once thought to be a vast, silent, and barren land, black gold, oil, was buried beneath the surface. By sheer chance, the Osage found themselves owning this land just as the oil boom began, quickly ascending to immense wealth. However, the oil, defying gravity as it was pumped from the earth, did not merely enrich its owners. It fell across the Oklahoma wilderness, the plains, and onto the faces of both Native Americans and white settlers, blooming into dark flowers of death. The newly wealthy Osage people became widely known across the country, drawn by the scent of money. Drifters, criminals, and opportunists from all over the country swarmed into this small town. Meanwhile, a ludicrous system at the time refused to recognize Native Americans as ordinary citizens, the so-called guardian system. Claiming that Native Americans were incapable of managing their own wealth, the law required them to have financial guardians. These guardians were appointed from the local white elite, prominent businessmen, ranchers, lawyers, and politicians. It was, of course, like entrusting a cat with a fish. These guardians forced the Osage to buy goods exclusively from their own stores, made them purchase automobiles at 5 times their actual price, restricted their financial dealings to specific banks and shops in exchange for kickbacks, and in some cases, outright stole their land and homes under the guise of legal purchases. In this outrageous situation, where the Osage were being robbed in broad daylight, members of their community began dying under mysterious circumstances. Some were poisoned, others were shot, and some were killed when their homes were bombed. People connected to the case were thrown from moving trains, and unexplained deaths became common. Thus, Killers of the Flower Moon vividly recreates life on the American frontier in the early 20th century, a time when deception and violence often preceded law and science. Eventually, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, led by J. Edgar Hoover, launched an investigation, and the Osage murders became a landmark case that showcased the modern FBI to the nation. Unlike the gunslinging lawmen of Western films who dispense justice through brute force, the FBI began to be staffed with college-educated elites, marking its emergence as a major force in U.S. history. The book thrillingly portrays the process of law taking root in a land once ruled by outlaws and vigilantes.